A Republican lawmaker in Michigan by the name of Representative Tim Walberg was recently talking to his constituents about the issue of climate change. Now, interestingly enough, even though he is a right-leaning politician, he does believe that climate change exists. However, he does want to let everyone know that if we start really feeling the consequences of climate change, there's one individual or one power that has everything under control. Take a look.
I believe there's climate change. I believe there's been climate change since the beginning of time.
Okay, so we're off to a good start.
Great,
we're off to a really good start.
That's a Republican agreeing to reality. Wonderful.
Right, but then he continues.
Do I think that man has some impact? Yeah, of course. Can man change the entire universe? No. Why do I believe that? Well, as a Christian, I believe that there is a creator and God who's much bigger than us. And I'm confident that if there's a real problem, he can take care of it.
That's right. I'm amused by how much God must have hated the dinosaurs. I wonder what kind of sin that they created. Because the dinosaurs, their last words are, God, why have you forsaken us? Look at the damn meteor.
Yeah.
Okay, look.
Maybe they were having too much Tyrannosaurus sex.
Oh, singer, I hadn't heard that before. Anyways, all right, so guys, I mean, look, what are you gonna do in a world run by lunatics? And so sorry, you know, I know religious people get super upset at me, but you believe in fairy tales, and your fairy tales, when it just gets you through the night, bless your heart, I got no problems with it, and I think faith is different than religion, okay? And so you don't have faith, God bless. Ironic, but true, right? But if you say, no, I believe in religion, these things written by rabbis 2,500 years ago, when they had no science at all, they barely knew that 2 + 2 = 4. And they're like, I don't know, I think there's holes in the sky, and I think Yahweh wants us to do X, Y, or Z. And now later, when we're setting policy that actually affects the world, and climate change leads to severe storms throughout the world, let alone the droughts, the famines, and all the things that are coming and have already begun to arrive, and that affects and unfortunately ultimately kills millions of people. Now you're telling me, no, it's okay, my imaginary friend in the sky is gonna fix it?
But this is not a rare talking point among, you know, some of the more fundamentalist religious people in the country, right? Now, I don't know, and I don't think he's fundamentalist, but what this reminds me of is when some families will have an individual in their family who gets extremely sick and needs medical attention. And they're like, no, we don't need to go to doctors because God's gonna take care of it. And so if their kid, you know, gets cancer or something like that, they decide, no cancer treatments, no nothing, no seeing a doctor. If it's God's will for my child to die, then it's God's will. And that kind of thinking is so incredibly dangerous. No, God is not gonna come in and save the planet. If you're a religious person, you have faith, awesome, right? I have nothing against that. But at the same time, you can't allow that type of thinking to either dictate or sway public policy. Policy related to climate change is incredibly important. That's what's gonna save this planet. That's what's gonna save people's lives from extreme weather conditions.
Okay, so let me tackle this from a different direction if you're religious. So there's an old story about there's a priest on a sinking ship, and they say, Father, get on the life preserver. We've got enough space. He says, that's okay, God's gonna come and save me. And then the ship continues to sink. He's the only one left on it. And a giant ship comes by and goes, oh my God, you're sinking in the ship. Here, come aboard our ship. And the father says, no, God is gonna save me. I don't need your ship, thank you though. And then he's almost done. He's all the way up to here. And a helicopter comes by and they say, okay, we're gonna save you, Father. And the priest says, no, it's okay, God is gonna save me. And the helicopter leaves, and as he's about to die and he's drowning, he says, God, why have you forsaken me? And God says, dude, I sent you 3 different ways to save your life. I sent you a boat, a ship, and a helicopter. Why didn't you get on, right? So my point there is, yeah, you know, my child is sick, but God will take care of it. Yeah, God will take care of it if you're a believer. Through science and doctors and medicine. He gave you medicine and science and doctors, use it. right? And in this case of climate change, yeah, how's God gonna save it? First of all, he gave us a mind. We might wanna use it. He gave us scientists, and 97% of them agree that it's happening, and we better fix it right now. Otherwise, all those consequences that I talked about will actually happen, okay? The droughts, the storms, etc., and all the deaths will happen. Our military says it's gonna happen. Even the corporations say it's gonna happen. Everyone says it's gonna happen. How many times did God have to send you something for you to do something about it instead of sitting around like a jackass going, oh, I don't know, I guess God will fix it with magic. So if he hadn't fixed it with magic yet, I guess it's all right. So we cannot afford this level of stupidity. And so again, sorry if you're in the camp that doesn't believe in science and that believes in voodoo, but that is the stupid position. And Tim Walberg is squarely in that camp.
I feel like you're being a little unfair to him, right? I think that, look, the statement about how Jesus is gonna take the wheel and everything's gonna be okay, I mean, it makes people like us roll our eyes, right? But it's also the type of statement that plays well with his constituents. I give him credit for acknowledging climate change and also acknowledging the fact that it is caused by humans, because you don't hear that from the right. You don't hear that from Republican representatives, especially members of Congress. And so I give him credit. I think that his heart is in the right place. I think that he is religious, and religion teaches you to have faith that everything's gonna be okay and God's gonna look out for you. Now, I get it.
You're gonna make me go harder.
No, don't go harder on him.
I think
it's important. I think it's important in cases where someone seems reasonable but might not agree with us completely, to have these conversations, to have dialogue, and not immediately cast them off as lunatics that are,
No, look, okay, let's roll back lunatic for a second, but so my number one problem with religion is that it is not true. So I love you if you think it is, and you've got faith, and and could there be a connection between all of us? I think that's possible. If anything, I might be a transcendentalist, right? It's a very American religion, if you will, or faith. But did God communicate to Mary and said, hey, I'm gonna impregnate you and you No, Moses didn't even exist. There's no archaeological record of him in Egypt at all. Did he split the Red Sea? It's not true. It's not true. Did Muhammad move a mountain? Did he talk to God on top of a mountain? No, it is not true. So if you keep believing in fairy tales, but then you make world-changing decisions that endanger the rest of our lives, then I'm sorry, I gotta be a little offensive to you and point out that you believe in goddamn fairy tales. Okay. So no, and second of all, Tim Walberg is not a genuine actor, and he doesn't actually mean any of that stuff. Why does Tim Walberg have that position? Does it have to do with religion, or does it have to do with facts or science? No, it has to do with his donors. So there's still enough donors out there who say, no, I am profiting, I don't care about the rest of the world. If your kids die, and maybe even mine, what do I care? I'm so goddamn greedy, I'm going to purchase Tim Walberg. And hey, Walberg, do as I goddamn tell you. Make up some lie about how you're religious or something, but you will vote against doing anything about climate change because that's what you're paid to do. Now go out there, water boy, and do your job. And that's what Walberg's doing.
Do you know that for a fact? I mean, I didn't look into his campaign donors, but maybe you have information that I don't know.
The entire Republican Party is funded by the same oil companies who today are panicking a little bit and going, oh, I don't know, we want to pull out of that. But the fossil fuel industry, and that is why they have the propaganda they do. By the way, their think tanks are also funded by the same exact companies whose job it is to trick you, just like the tobacco companies. Just create doubt, Does it cause cancer? Some say that they do, some say that it doesn't, I can't tell. Let's let Jesus sort it out after you die from smoking, right? And after the planet dies from climate change, we'll let Jesus sort it out, okay? Now, Republican Party en masse, go, I am paying you to be stupid. And by the way, and this is important, and Anna, you make a good point. It's not just that Tim Walberg guys like him go, hey man, I just want a Bentley. I'll do whatever you want. I just want power. Okay, I believe climate change is totally real and the planet is melting. I don't care. Just give me the money. It's some are like that, but not all of them. I would guess that most of them are. It's a country of 330 million people. You want to find a stupid guy who'll do your bidding? You go, hey, dumbass, do you believe in climate change? I don't know, I guess not. I guess the Lord Jesus is going to save us or Muhammad or somebody, right? And they go, oh, okay, you're the idiot I need. Hey, useful moron, come here. Here's a check, you run for Congress, now you're my boy. You understand that, Tim? And Tim goes, oh yeah, I understand that. And that's how it works. You just watched the video from the Young Turks. Did you know that there's a live 2-hour show every day? And that if you're a member of the Young Turks, you can get that on demand anytime you want without ads. Plus the post game just for members, plus Aggressive Progressives, plus Old School, plus so many other network shows. Go right now, tytnetwork.com/join.